I watch Professor of Rock and Y-Files and everything else. All the comic news stuff is all people complaining. Unless we're doing stuff like we're doing.
Yeah.
So
Lizard people.
Lizard people.
Lizard people.
Just
I
hilarious.
love hecklefish.
We all love hecklefish. I'm getting a T-shirt, I think.
Yeah. Got to do it.
Just to have it. Come on in, folks. We see you out there. It's time for Watchmen again. We're on issue 4.
Only 8 more.
Only 8 more.
I take it we won't be doing the new stuff.
There's the cover. No,
I've never seen it.
I haven't read it. I've seen it.
I saw it on the shelf, but I wouldn't even touch it.
Yeah, I've got a couple of the Darwin Cook episodes, but other than that, I just bought that for the artwork. I just bought it to look at the pictures. Running the opening, then we'll get into it, folks. Thanks for being here. It's Watchmen. One more time, chat is open. The chat is open. So feel free to contribute and chime in. My lamps are reflecting off of my Wacom this morning. And that's Sunday Funnies. We don't want that one. We want this one. Here we go.
What was that? This is not a charade. We need total concentration. Now, once again, this time, with theory.
Boom.
Come on in, folks. Comics by Night. What's going on? I got a great new video clip, but I can't play it in the first 8 minutes because it goes against their wonderful community standards. But I'm kind of proud of it because I navigated between a couple of oddball bits of video in order to get it, and it works great. Watchmen, issue 4, folks. Photograph on Mars. There we are. Look at that cover. Here it is in black and white. And here it is in roughs. If you can see that.
Yeah.
That is rough.
That is rough. Yeah. But look at that. He had everything. He has his perspective lines sitting here dead center to draw your attention in. Everything points in angles. It's just amazing to sit there and look at the amount of thought that went into this cover, even though it's just a photograph on the Martian sand with a couple of feet around it. Beautifully done.
Even the smallest thing, right?
Even the smallest thing. That's why we're going through this the way that we are. We're looking at Watching the Watchmen by Dave Gibbons, as well as the annotated Watchmen that has notes by a number of different people and has the work in black and white for us to enjoy raw, I guess you would say, plus the originals. We have a few other things that we'll look at as time goes by. I have a wonderful set of portfolios that I love. That's the American covers, the French covers, and the promotional posters.
Wow.
That are just amazing. So those French covers are beautiful.
Oh, we like those French covers.
Do you know what is beautiful on that page there? That lettering. Look how gorgeous that lettering is.
There?
No, on the second,
Yeah.
that one. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Well done.
And we've already covered it, but I'll say it again. It's great the way that Dave Gibbons got another paycheck for doing the lettering as well, and all the art belongs to him, so to speak, because he inks it as well.
Uh-huh.
Nobody else done it. I think that's great.
I think I told the story last week. I had a friend of mine had an original for Watchmen that he had bought that at what he thought was a high price. And, Jason, another friend of mine, talked him into kind of putting it up for like an auction, and it ended up adding a zero literally to the final cost.
Wow.
So we're talking 5 figures. High five.
Jesus.
First French cover, if we can see that. That covers the first 2 issues.
Fantastic.
Each cover is the same. These are the French editions printed 2 issues at once, and they had the same base layout, but each one covered a different character, and the clock ticks a little closer. Here's where we are now. Dr. Manhattan. The clock's moving a little closer. There's the photograph again.
Yeah.
The gears are working.
It's great the way we keep saying this because it's what happens in this comic with Alan Moore. The way he switches things, like he's looking at stars. They're so far away and the light takes so long to reach us, and he says, all we ever see of stars are their old photographs, and it links it in. It's just fantastic. It's genius, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
The way he links it, it's just wonderful. Look
The
at
promotional posters too cover individual characters.
If you look in your Watchmen Gibbons book, Randy, I think there's a very rough of that drawing. A very rough,
Watching the Watchmen.
Very rough of that drawing.
Yeah.
Just done with markers, I think.
Just amazing.
Seem to remember.
I like everything, including the juice box.
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
Everything works incredibly well on that. Yeah. The same thing with the Dr. Manhattan one as well.
Look at that. Oh, I've not seen that before. Look at that.
We'll go through the other ones as we go through the series. So
What's the color page on this one? I've seen we got the photograph one we saw already. What's the second?
you seem to be breaking up this morning, Whiskey.
Let me check it out.
There's the color on that.
Again, as we said last week, he's done that thing with the photograph being black, hasn't he, to frame everything. And
Yep.
yeah, and the actual photograph thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, as respectful as I am to the color, the black and white is superior.
Yeah.
Just amazing. Yeah.
Most of that inking's done with a pen, a nib.
Yes. I mean, this has inspired me to get nibs. That's
Yeah.
what I'm drawing with nibs now.
Yeah,
And it's a whole different feel.
it's very daunting, isn't it, when you pick it up and think,
It
well,
is.
I've spent hours doing this drawing, and I'm really pleased with it. Now I'm going to pick up this pen that I've never used before.
Also, I'm working at pace. I'm kind of trying to put sort of like a 30-year career into a 15 year span.
Yeah,
By ramping up all the time and just going to the next thing without having a long run, as it were, on something. So I've been using ink pens. I've been using the Tombow stuff, and I've moved on now. I've got the Karitake ink pen, brush pen, which is lovely. But I'm now using the dip pens for my detail and my strokes and stuff, and I'm getting a finer line.
yeah.
And it's lovely. I did my first cover with it yesterday for Doctor Who, and I used my dip pens on it, and it was a whole different feel, a completely different feel. So it's just really nice to be doing something different.
How's the mic now? We good?
That's better.
Yeah, you
Okay.
sound great.
Oh, excellent.
Yep.
Some
Watchmaker.
of your inking there, Russ, is phenomenal.
Thank you. First, it's a mixture of some of it's digital and some of it's traditional. So some of the lines, when you get in closer on the traditional stuff, obviously you're going to see it's not quite as fine line as it looks. But in general, I seem to be doing a lot of the same things traditionally as I was digitally. But thank you very much.
Oh, no problem.
Nothing's ever as good as looking at it from a distance anyway. So.
Well, no, that's right. I mean, once you get past a certain size, especially if you're scanning in traditional artwork at 600 DPI, at the real size, by the time it gets taken down, there's not a lot in it.
Yeah.
And I've never been one to use. So, for instance, before Clip Studio was when it was Manga Studio, it seemed to be, well, from what I played about with, it was the lines were not pixelated. They were help me out here, Glenn, Illustrator.
Yeah.
They were
vectors.
Vectors. That's the word. Yeah. That's the word I'm looking for. They were vector lines, and I didn't like that at all.
No.
Right.
But when now Clip Studio is much like Photoshop, so if you go in close enough, you'll see the pixelated line.
Yeah.
So although it's smooth, there's still some texture to it.
You still have a sawtooth pixelation when you get down close enough to it.
That's right. Yeah. But there's not this, there's not the same texture that you get from a real brush or a real pen. So it's not to say it's not as good. It's just slightly different.
It depends what you're trying to do. I said to you back in the 80s when I was doing the comics, I tried. I'm not saying I got there anywhere near it, but I tried to ink like Joe Sinnott with a brush. I did everything with a brush. I was doing the tiny features with a brush, and it's not good. You need to mix it, and then you find out Joe Sinnott used a brush and he used a pen, which is sort of obvious. But to my eye, I thought he did it all with a brush. Yeah. And I can ink with a brush. I can ink with a pen or a quill or whatever you want, and it depends on the like Randy said, the textures that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah,
because I think that Dave Gibbons, this artwork. I'm sure you all know what I mean. It's very European. I know he is English and he is European, but it's very European. If Joe Sinnott would have got hold of this, it would have been beautiful, but it would have been totally different.
See, and from my perspective, other than Dr. Manhattan being inked in the thin line work, I don't get that impression. But
I think it's
my
British.
Impression of Gibbons is completely different from yours. So.
Yeah, I think it's British because I think a lot of the artists in Britain live between that land. They live between the Americana and the European styles, and it actually ends up having a particular kind of look to British artwork, and so a lot of that is funneled through things like 2000 AD or through the old Battle comics and what have you. But I think there's a real feel to British artwork.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I think it looks more European than it does American.
I think
AD.
I see.
And here in the States, I think that look really got meshed up a lot because of Vertigo and Karen Berger literally coming over and taking just about anybody of worth that was working on 2000 AD. Yeah. That's
but with I know what you're saying about the pen stuff though, Glenn, because I it's almost like a purist sort of, I want to make sure I'm doing this right. I want to follow the benchmark of these people and these geniuses. And because you don't know the inner workings of how they worked, you have to kind of work it out from like little YouTube clips or little bits and pieces or stories, because obviously it was slightly different connecting with people back then. You didn't have the same connection as you do with artists now.
And some of it's trade secrets too, right?
Right, and it used to be it used to be trade secrets and stuff, and you can look at things and go, oh wow, they did that with a pen, or they did this with a marker, and so it just goes to show it doesn't matter. Just get the stuff down, make it the best you can, and be prepared to use any tool at all. It's just finding the tools that work for you, really. And
it was
you can see here, just he's found the tools.
Yeah, he sounds
Well, he's been in the market here for a couple decades at this point, right?
Yeah. Sorry, Whiskey.
At least a good decade.
Well, I was saying that I just started using started doing sketch. Started doing sketches recently, getting into 2D, practicing sequential art and so on and so forth. And I think it was Rob Willis that recommended. If anybody's familiar with his work, it's gorgeous stuff. But he recommended. Sorry, it was Dillard. not Rob Willis, but Dillard, who does the Canadian buckle or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
He recommended
Buckle.
a mapping pen in Clip Studio, and I was like, okay, I'll give that a shot. And I found I didn't like the tool at all after using it for a bit, and then I just switched to the standard pencil, in the program. Like, hey, this is much more my thing, right? So I just kept using that, and
it's all horses for courses. Like different people will like different pens, and it's amazing that you see similar technique or similar outcome come from different artists with different technique and different tools, and yet it looks very similar on the page when it comes out on the page. There are lines here that you'll look at Sinnott lines as well, because these lines are so damn good. Okay, and you'll look at Sinnott lines and you'll think, well, they look the same, and they'll have been done with completely different tools and a completely different technique by the two artists.
Yeah.
So it's what you're comfortable with. It's what works for you.
That used to be part of the quest at conventions long before the internet. You'd go and you track these professionals down, and that's the first thing you'd ask them. What are you using? Had a guy who was a professional inker used to go around and literally ask folks what color of ink they use.
I remember when I was a little kid, I went to my first comic book convention and brought some of my early drawings with me. And I can't even remember who I talked to. It was somebody who was working on X-Men at the time. I have no idea who it was. And I was just showing my stuff, and they're like, I'm like, what do you think? They're like, hey, these aren't bad for, starting out. And they're just like, but you need to work on your basic anatomy and stuff. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's what they do.
It's difficult because it's that's an easy thing to say. I say it all the time. It's like, draw from life, sort your anatomy out and all these. But actually going and doing it's tough. It's hard. But I don't think people truly appreciate how hard it is to go and force yourself to do those kind of things and make those observations. And I think certainly for professional sequential artists, those people, when I say professional, you know what I mean, people that are doing it all the time, okay, they will be observing all the time. I find myself doing it, all kinds of things. I just, my wife is constantly saying, what are you looking at? It's like, well, I'm not just looking at your chest. I am actually I am actually observing the way that you move, a particular angle.
This is even worse.
Yeah. You might be turned away from me, and I'm just looking at the line of your cheekbone and seeing how that works, where the ear sits. And it's like I can get away with looking really close at my wife because she doesn't mind. Okay, but you can't do that to other people. But I do observe other people.
Not get slapped.
Yeah, not get slapped. That's right, I do observe other people.
Honey, tonight's the night.
Unless of
hang
course
on a second. I need to observe the contours of your face first.
Exactly. Unless you're in a strip club, and then you're just considered weird.
I'm constantly observing people all the time and constantly observing things. And it's because you're taking it in for that internal library.
Yeah.
And that's why I say it's like you can't just trace over 3D models or trace over pictures all the time. Okay, because you will lose the energy from your sequential art. You need to have a library of things so that you can create the environment, the scenes, the angles, everything you need.
Yeah. You remember when sorry,
I picked up a book called Frame Perspective recently. Another artist recommended it, and they're talking about anatomy and all that stuff. And the way that it's presented in the book is just like the different angles and perspective views and things that, like, I thought I knew anatomy, right? Doing 3D art, I'm like, I thought I knew this, but like, it's just a whole nother ball game, right? Like just being able to put it into the different, 2-point, 3-point, and 1-point perspective, and drawing a circle as a certain shape, and then the chest cavity or the head in a certain angle and different viewpoints. I'm just like, I don't really know this at all.
I think probably one of the biggest issues I see, especially in early artists, and this is something that I'm fighting with constantly, and I know all artists should be fighting with it, okay, but it's the difference between anatomy and figure drawing. Okay.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
can know exactly where every sinew and every muscle and every bone is. But figure drawing, life drawing is a whole different game. You're talking about posture. You're talking
Weight.
about weight and gravity and how it affects the body and how people stand and walk and lollop and whatever it might be that they're doing. And it's the combination of the two which makes good action in your strip from the people that you're drawing.
Yep,
exactly.
And I was going to say, like any skill, like any trade out there, plumbing or electrical or whatever, the key is being proficient in your tool and in the tools that you use, and the way you do that is by using them and over and over again. Constant practice. You have to do the work in order to get proficient at it. Back to the work. Here's the sequence that Glenn was talking about, the watchmaker and the falling stars and turning into the wonderful silhouette here of the gears of the watchmaker falling. Dr. Manhattan first starting out as a watchmaker. Putting a watch together.
Wonder, you guys ever seen a TV show called The Heroes?
Yeah.
Called Heroes or just the Heroes?
So Heroes. Yeah,
Save the cheerleader, save the world or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, the bad guy in that one. I wonder if they modeled him after Dr. Manhattan because he was a watchmaker.
It wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Is that the one where the girl used to jump off the wall and break her arm to make it?
Yeah, heal.
That one.
Yeah.
I think I watched about 3 of them and thought, nah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it really fell apart in the later seasons because they switched writers. So just like most all TV shows, they end up eroding into tropes, and the main writers move on or get a better deal, and somebody else comes in and just messes everything all up.
I just watched the most atrocious TV or movie I've ever seen in my life. That I assume was made off a comic book. It was called I, Frankenstein, and it's Frankenstein's monster, and he's fighting demons and gargoyles. And it's just
I know what you're talking about. It's not the worst movie. It's very forgettable though.
Yeah.
There was a big character actor that played the lead on that.
Yeah, and it's like, why such a waste of talent?
Well, Universal's been trying to Avengers their Universal monsters for a while now, and every time they try a version of it, people just turn their nose up at it.
I don't know why I didn't mind that mummy film. I thought it was all right.
The female mummy?
No, was that a female mummy? The one with Tom Cruise in? Woohoo! Yeah. I quite like that. I quite enjoyed that. Mind you,
I think I Frankenstein.
My bar is very low. You know that.
Yeah, the I Frankenstein, I think, was part of that. There was a Dracula like that as well. They were going to combine all 3 of them together.
Yeah, that would have been cracking. Yeah,
none of them made any money. So.
Crack-a-lackin'. That would have been great.
Crack-a-lackin'.
Well, you could have done a lot with that. Like the premise of the story wasn't bad, right? No. You could have went like a billion different ways with that and made it good, but it was just rough.
If you look at Dave Gibbons' lettering on these pages, right? This is what I'm always on about. When you do lettering on a computer and it looks so pristine, so precise, it doesn't work with the drawings for me. But if you look at the lettering, even the balloons aren't circular like they usually are. They're sort of really, they've got angles. They're the edges of the word balloons.
Yeah.
And it makes it all more organic. Another word I don't like using, but because it fits with it. It's not perfect.
You can definitely tell he freehanded them. There's no French curves at work here. Except for maybe in inking them. But he probably just sat there with a rapidograph and just floop.
Yeah, and I just think it works so well. And I think it's a lesson to be learned that with the lettering, put the lettering on. And
all right, quick guys, just a quick aside. Show my camera now.
Give me a sec. There we go.
It just came through the door.
Oh my goodness! There you are.
Oh, behold the man, Michael Moorcock.
Oh, we went through that story.
We did. That's why I went looking. I hunted it down. Got it from eBay. There you go.
Nice,
fabulous.
There's some great stuff there. And folks, if you want to see that, that's over on the Comics by Night archive at the Indie Comics Network.
Go watch us go through that, because that is a great book. It is a great
we lost
book.
focus on the main camera there.
He's a great artist. And it's an amazing work. We got it back now. It looks clear here.
It's coming.
It might be.
It's coming.
It's my end, probably.
It's a bit fuzzy.
Okay, it's not my end.
Oh.
There we go. Better now?
Yeah. We're
Still
good to
looks
go.
like it's adjusting. My eyes aren't perfect, so. Back to the photograph motif on the cover. Again.
It's like this particular episode is like it's like a time machine, isn't it? The way they keep, I know the whole thing keeps going backwards and all the kind of thing, but this one in particular, especially all centered around this photograph. You know,
Well, every other issue is a look back. There's a forward and a back. The odds are forward. The backs or the evens are look backs or origin explanations. You know, and it's just, again, you've got this dialogue working with Dr. Manhattan as he's thinking about what's happening or what has happened with himself while he's contemplating himself alone on Mars. Yeah.
could you imagine being trapped in that? Could you imagine that?
Having every atom torn apart. Yeah.
Well,
There we are.
Knowing
that.
what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a derivative of the Ditko Captain Atom origin.
Mm.
It's what it is. Actually, a more realistic version of it, being ripped to shreds and then reconstructed.
Great shadows on that center panel there, on that face.
Yeah.
The one who's screaming, yeah.
Yeah.
Can we take a look at the color page in comparison to the two? Is that all right?
Yeah. It's very blue.
It's very blue. Yeah.
Blues and purples.
On that center panel there where he's screaming, the brain, Dave Gibbons has invented his own kind of Kirby crackle around it. It's really neat. If you can, I don't know whether you can blow it up or not, but it's really good. It's sort of like a cross-hatching type of thing, but it's going into
It's a
lines.
fuzz.
Yeah, it's really clever.
It's a combination of white dots and over top of crosshatch inking.
Yeah.
In order to get that. You can see that in the black.
Because I'd have been definitely tempted to put some Kirby crackle around that fella's head.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I'm not Dave Gibbons.
Make your own effects. Yep.
Yeah.
Wally Wood is famous for having a fade in effect. Nobody could figure out how he did it. You see it in his work every once in a while. That it kind of goes from a circle out into a circle of solid white into solid black. That's very unique to his work. Behold the man. Their hair straight up.
Yeah.
All of their hair straight up as he reforms.
It's like that electric buzz.
Yeah.
It's like a static, which is why all the hair is going up in the air. It's just brilliant.
And nobody had children again.
Yeah.
Very blue again. Very much Dr. Manhattan blue.
Wally reminds me of that guy. What was Matt Murdock's
Foggy.
Foggy?
Yeah. Foggy Nelson.
It was like him.
Yeah.
Foggy Nelson. Yeah. That's great the way he's got that girl's hair going up there. The hair.
How slick those
Amazing.
lines are. All are.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is quick brushwork. That's what that is. It's beautiful stuff. Just got a buzz from somebody.
Buzz, buzz, buzz.
Yeah.
And all the knives and forks going up as well.
Brian's not going to make it. Got a lot of work to do around the house. So we figured if he wasn't here by now, he probably
I can hear him hoovering from here.
Yeah.
Chat's open, folks. Feel free to contribute.
On that Galaxy there, you've got that Gibbons Kirby crackle again.
Yeah.
Yep. Probably little brush dabs. Bop, 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 bop. Either that or white in a rapidograph. Yeah. They're all pretty consistent looking.
Yeah.
It's probably a pen with white ink in it. Would imagine that's how he did it.
That top left looks like a Boland's Joker thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little
Killing joke, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And again, that circular lens at work there. It's a motif that goes through the work. Now also the circle on his head.
Look how on the second panel where the word balloon is covering the photographer's head.
Yeah. But he's ducking anyway.
Yeah, screw it.
Yeah, they're not going to cover up his costume, will they?
Put him in a costume. So eventually he just finds clothes unnecessary.
It's great the way he burns that hydrogen symbol in his head. The guy's saying he's got to wear a symbol. And he don't want to wear any clothes, so he just burns it in his head. Like you do.
And he makes a perfect circle with his finger.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Well, the thing, gain superpowers, become a nudist.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's going to put you in prison?
Dr. Watt. What's your name? What is my name?
Dr. Metropolis there, or Mr. Metropolis, whatever he was called. It's that dollar bill. Instead, we asked those costumed vigilantes remaining from masked.
Do you know you could just look at one panel for 3 weeks, couldn't you, and just try and work out what he's done?
Yeah. And again, the symmetry of the TV screens there.
Yeah.
And pulling back to Jupiter. Here's Silk Spectre.
Silk Spectre with a dodgy haircut.
That is such a dodgy haircut, isn't it?
Sometimes I feel as if I've been here all the time. I'm there now in 1960. Saying those words, watching that TV set.
It's because he's timeless, because the quantum world doesn't perceive time.
Becomes timeless.
In the first panel there, we see just more of those excellent folds and clothing and stuff.
Yeah.
Just
and the natural way everyone's standing as well.
Is that Moloch here?
Yeah.
In his youth. Just looks phenomenal. Very classic stuff.
It just destroyed that guy's head.
Yeah, just poof.
Poof, get out of the way. I'm going to the bar.
I'm just going to look. Is that a cloud of red?
let's take a look at the
No, it's a cloud of yellow.
Yellow.
Yeah. With like a reddish orange background.
So he explodes it rather than mystifying it.
It just turns
Yeah.
it into a poof.
That's like an explosion.
And again, remember, we've got the limitations of 1980s coloring
Yeah.
as well. Doing their best they can with the
It
tools.
still works though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But it's not like, again, it's not like the black and white where you sit and you see all
Yeah.
this beautiful detail and the stark, spotted blacks here.
John chose a red palette there for the fact that they were in a club.
Yeah.
So it dimmed the lights, so you couldn't really have an explosion of blood there.
No.
Right.
But actually, it is cloudy, so it does look like it's sort of like a small explosion rather than his head just misting into red.
In
blood.
reality, it's a fat kid with a beanbag, and he's like lightning bolt.
Could you imagine owning 12 volumes of this full size, this artwork?
Oh God!
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder what they'd get for that.
Make a huge artisan book, wouldn't it?
Yeah, be fantastic,
No.
wouldn't it?
Even though this is slightly bigger
I'd definitely
Yeah.
be buying that.
than the original. Yeah.
I've got Noir. I've got Watchmen Noir, and I think that's slightly bigger. Do you know?
Do I need
Do
to
you know-
blow you up again?
No. Do you know the things that keep you sane? The things that keep you sane when looking at artwork of genius standard is looking really, really close at the lines and seeing that some of them are wobbly.
Yeah.
You can see the ink stroke, and you can see that it isn't a perfect line. And in actual fact, the fact that it isn't a perfect line is what makes the art so wonderful.
Well, that's what I was saying to you about the lettering.
Yeah,
That's what that does.
it's the imperfections almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got this wonderful fit, like you're looking at these images, and just the general composition and the way that it's been drawn is giving you that essence of genius and perfection. And then you're looking closer and you see the humanity of the lines, because it's
Yeah.
not made by a robot. It's not a perfect line. None of them are. And that's what gives it its richness. And it's just,
Yeah.
but it does, as an artist, it keeps you sane.
Yeah.
Because especially as a kid, I mean, I've said this before, as a kid, you look at that work. I picked up Captain Britain, I picked up 2000 AD, and you look at that artwork and you think, that's perfect artwork. And then when you go to try and make your own artwork, you're looking for the perfect line. You're looking for the perfect scene. You're looking for the perfect drawing. And none of these are. They're brilliant. They're genius material, okay? But there's always imperfections. And
there lies the road to madness.
yes, exactly.
Trying to make yourself
Exactly.
perfect.
Yeah.
You're not ever going to be perfect.
Yeah, perfection is the enemy of great.
Yeah.
And here
You get
you've got the guy in the suit with all of the sheen, the light popping off of it. And Dr. Manhattan is incredibly flat, no detail inside the suit.
Yeah.
Again, an art directive,
It's a great contrast.
and as an art direction choice there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It is.
Just to underline what we're saying there, it's the sometimes your mistake is the best part.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
So true.
I showed you that piece of artwork I did for my dad's book with that flash of that brain gun, and I was really mad because it took me 3 days, and I just threw a load of ink on it, and it's the best illustration in the book as far as I'm concerned. Which doesn't say much for the rest.
Happy accidents.
What it does is, like, so for instance, I've been doing some cross hatching and over an area, and I wanted to get a smooth feel to it. It's sort of like it was consistent. So I was using rulers, and it's fine. But I did this cover, and I was using the dip pens that I was saying,
Mhm.
and I didn't want to use the ruler on the dip pens because I wanted the lines to be freer.
Yeah.
So where I was doing the cross hatching, it is for a slightly different thing. It's for clouds, but where I was doing the cross hatching, I thought, no, I'm not going to use a ruler here. I'm going to do all this freehand, and I'm going to do it in clumps. And the random nature of it has made the texture The fact that I didn't use the ruler, the fact that I just let myself go on it, it's made it all that much. It's made the image richer for doing that.
Yeah,
If they'd have all been done with a ruler, it wouldn't be as rich. So,
and you'll be more confident next time because you've done it this time.
Exactly. Yeah. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do, like that I won't ever do a crosshatch in a background with a ruler again because I want a consistent flow to it. Of course I will at some point. I know I will, but it all depends on the image that you're producing. And like you say, having that confidence to say, no, screw it. I'm going to do this crosshatching and I'm going to put it in. And it adds to the richness of the piece. I
quite agree with you about the ruler. I stopped using a ruler for that kind of thing. That's why I use that flexi curve that I showed you.
Yeah,
because it's not as stiff as a ruler, but it's stiffer than your freehand, so to speak.
Yeah,
and you do get some really, really nice fluid lines if you use one of those.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic tool.
I just actually discovered that tool on YouTube the other day. But speaking about like doing art, and getting perfection and stuff like that, I spent like an entire day redrawing this one character from the first page of my, I guess, the rough draft of the book I'm working on, and I hate it. so I'm going back to I'm trying to update this character and make him all better and stuff, and I'm just like, I just like the original. It looks like, it's has no anatomy to it really. It just looks amorphous and silly, but it works way better than trying to add anatomy to this character. It's not supposed to be, it's not supposed to be Dr. Manhattan here. It's supposed to be this, the way it was originally drawn.
Sometimes the first thing you do is the best thing.
Yeah.
I've never been I've never been good at doing that. While I was a designer as well, it's like, right, we want to see like 10 cover options. It's like, why? You're only going to have one in the end.
Yeah, your first one's usually the best one.
And the first one's usually the best one. So yeah, it's I tend to think that especially when you're doing your own books, you can play in your own mind before you even put the pencil on the paper. You've already sort of shuffled through multiple designs in your own mind before you even see them on the. And there is an argument to say yes, but seeing them laid down in front of you means it's easy to compare. And I do have some time for that viewpoint, but certainly not multiples. I would say 2 or 3 ideas is all you really need. That are distinct from each other. Otherwise, after that, it's just variations on a theme and probably a waste of time.
Speaking about wasting time, I was doing a project for a commission for a gentleman for exposure, right? And
oh boy,
it wasn't great.
I had an exposure sandwich last night. It was great.
and he asked for this thing, this. It was the bunny, actually, if you've seen the 3D model, the miniature, and he wanted this jet to go with it. And I'm like, you realize what you're asking for, right? So 300 hours later, I'm still working on the jet, and he's I don't even know where he is. I think his YouTube channel, which it was supposed to be for, is no longer in existence or something. And I haven't even finished the damn thing. I'm just like, it takes some things. People just don't know what they ask for, right? They just have no concept of what your time is worth, or how much something takes, or
Oh yeah, I mean, when I was doing programming website stuff, there was an awful lot of there must be a make website button on the keyboard.
yeah, that's right.
That's why you never make anything for exposure.
No, that's never the way it works. Never the way it works. There is no make this comic with that button. Even though Photoshop or Adobe tried to make,
I think
unless you make it for yourself and you put it up on digital webbing,
that wonderful software that could make comics for you. What was that called?
AI.
No, the other one. Adobe came up with some comic book creation.
The Comic Blast. It's going to revolutionize the industry. Yeah,
revolutionize the industry. Like,
see how that went. Yeah.
Sod off.
That is the last job I'm doing for exposure.
Exposure have been exposed.
To be fair, I'm kind of happy I did the bunny, but doing the plane is what really did me in.
I think it's great the way his face never changes, does it? He never smiles or anything. Pig.
And yet there's so much emotion sitting here bouncing off of the young Jupiter. Yeah. Young Silk Spectre. And then again, look at the devilishness.
Yeah.
With the comedian reveling in his napalming.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And the comparison, the first panel and the last panel on the second page, right? You can just one's like a somewhat dull, peaceful scene, and then it just goes nuts.
Look at that. He understands perfectly, and he doesn't care. That's really scary, isn't it? He doesn't care.
Blake's different.
It reminds me of the Joker I did recently in 3D.
Yeah. It's really a look at the different parts of a person's psyche, you know.
Mm-hmm.
All of these characters are such different aspects of humanity or inhumanity.
Can we take a look at the color for the last?
The inks on the lighting on those last two panels is so impressive because the color doesn't do any more for the light. I'm not slating the color. The color's fine. It's great. Okay, but it doesn't do any more to light his face than the black and white did.
If you look at the comedian when he's holding the flamethrower, his chest that looks like the space when my hands on Mars.
It does. Yep.
Just
black with a couple of stars or galaxies
in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the sketch version look like?
Not sure it shows that, does it?
That might take a little digging.
Dig.
See what I can find here.
He's good. Gibbons is good at doing characters, and like when Dr. Manhattan's shaking hands with a comedian in the center panel.
There's the rough right there.
Right.
No, he's rough.
There's the rough for that previous page. So all of the everything's laid out.
Yeah.
Just not fine.
And he puts his blacks on there as well.
Yeah. Do you folks storyboard like that as well? Do like a rough version first, or just get right into it?
I do thumbnails, work it out just to work out the composition and storytelling, and then I may change it when I'm actually doing the pencil work, but I usually keep with it.
I have to say, I know people storyboard rather than thumbnail, which is close to what those thumbnails are there. I tend not to do that.
Yeah, I don't do as much detail as that.
No, I tend not to do that. I will. What I do is some of it comes from process as well. I used to do thumbnails when I was doing everything traditionally, so penciling and everything. But then and also I'd photocopy them up. I'd blow them up on a photocopier and put them on my light table, and put my paper over the top to do my pencils. So I got the proportions of what I wanted to do. But now that I do all my penciling digitally, so the whole sort of photocopying process and blowing things up and fiddling around with stuff is now done with digital tools and layers. I tend not to do those thumbnails anymore because I can just zoom them all down and see all the roughs in one place on in my directories. You have like a large thumbnail showing on your folder. You can see everything that you've done, so it's just like there's no need as such to make a thumbnail in that way. But I think we all sketch our pages out first, to see sort of rough proportions of where things are going to go. Mm-hmm. It's that there's only super geniuses like Jack Kirby
Yeah.
who just come to their page and just drop it all in one go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's because he's done it so long. He sees it in his head.
I think he had a particular ability. I think he was the
you
same
do
as
it-
that.
You do it enough. Yeah.
Who was the guy who died recently? Was he Korean or the guy that could just draw on the wall and like
Exactly.
It was beautiful, and he obviously had. I mean, I'm not suggesting he had a photographic memory. What I'm saying is his memory was worked in such a way that he could see everything he needed. He didn't need the sketch.
You're not talking about Rolf Harris, are you?
No. Can you see what it is yet, mate?
Korean gentleman who could just sit there in front of a wall and just draw and freak everybody out because he was so accurate and so good.
I like the bit where Tommy gets his balls shut the door by Jerry. It's great.
I was going to say that, like,
can you see it yet, mate?
Can you see it yet, mate? Can you see what I'm drawing?
Sorry, Whiskey. Carry on. Sorry.
I was going to say that, like I can. Speaking about seeing stuff in your head, I can see what I want to draw in my head, but my skill in getting it on the paper is completely lacking.
Well, yeah, I've said this before. That the furthest point between the furthest distance between 2 points in the universe isn't here to Andromeda. It's from an artist's head to the end of his hand,
the end of his pencil. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah,
and you see it in your head.
I make comparisons between martial arts and comic book art drawing, and I've talked about discipline and getting yourself to a point where you master the art rather than the art mastering you and all the rest of it. But there's also that control of your body and it so in some ways going into automatic. Okay, so when I'm marching up and down and doing drills and line work, when you first start and you're asked to put your hips in a certain position to make a punch work, your body's going, no, I can't do this. Okay, it's that your body doesn't want to do it, but eventually your body does it automatically and you don't think about it anymore. Okay, and it's the same with drawing. It's the same with drawing, especially sequential art, is because you start off by going, I don't understand, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing, and eventually you do things so often, okay, that they become second nature and you don't think about it. And I also believe, sorry to continue this, but I also believe there are two types of artists. Okay, there are those artists who are naturally gifted to the point, like Jack Kirby or the other guy, I can't remember his name, please forgive me, who it just pours out of them. Do you know what I mean? It pours out of them, and they don't have to go through all the same levels of practice that the rest of us do. And then there are other people who are gifted, but they need to work harder at it. And it's the same with karate. Actually, you have you'll quite often have two different types of students: those who can turn up and who can already put their head up to someone's head, and you just think, oh yeah, I hate you. Okay, and they're naturally gifted in the physicality department. And then you get other people who work and work and work and make the skills work and make their body do the right things. Okay, and sometimes you're fortunate you can get the combination of the two. And I believe that happens in sequential art, where some people just turn up who are incredibly gifted. I would say this is an example, but also then work and work and work and work and come out to the point where they're just so good at what they're doing. And this is a perfect example of that, because
we're talking about martial arts and and drawing and stuff like that. What they call is a state of no mind.
Yes.
An instinctual, you practiced it so many times that it
flows.
You don't think about it; you just flow.
Yeah,
and particularly with because I've done like Tai Chi and Bagua and a bunch of other Eastern or like mental, what they call mental martial arts. It all concentrates on the mental aspect of the martial art versus the physicality, right? Particularly in Tai Chi, and it's about flowing. And we used to do these exercises when we were studying like Tai Chi and Kung Fu and all that about sort of like tricking up your opponent with these mirror drills, and you'd follow the other person, and then the idea would be to you'd move your left hand like, twice instead of in sequence. Like you'd be getting used to blocking them one way, then they trip you up and do, like a sort of like a fake out. But the mind gets repetitive in a certain state and then it gets stuck, right? And and it reminds me of the works of Tako and Soho, which is a Zen master writing to a sword master, and used to talk about, in the book, he talks about 1,000 Aikano, and 1,000 Aikano has 1,000 eyes, 1,000 hands, but if he like gets stuck thinking about one of those hands or one of those eyes, then it doesn't matter if he has 1,000 eyes or 1,000 hands, because his mind is stuck in that one point.
On that one point. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Marv says, good morning, sinners. The black and white art is way better than the colored one. I'll be able to see the show live for a bit, finally. Yeah. Thanks, Marv, for watching.
That stillness, or that that, that stillness that obviously like Hagen or is channeling here is obvious, right? You can see that it's just naturally flowing from page to page to page to page.
But so much so there's, I believe that's equal amounts of sheer raw ability, talent, and working at his grafting at the art, and working hard to sculpt those skills. So in karate, it's very much the Zen moment is while you're in the move. So when you go to train, you go to the dojo and you're training, you think about nothing else. You think about, there is no life outside of what you are doing at that moment in time. You don't think about your job. You don't think about your family. You don't think about yourself. You think about nothing. You don't think at all. You think about it's just a flow of what you're doing. And if you can get that kind of Zen, that kind of flow into your artwork, then you're doing something right. You've obviously grafted to a point where you're starting to let the ability flow and not think too hard about what you're doing.
I definitely take some of that martial arts teachings about the no mind to what I do in 3D, just because I find it very cathartic and relaxing and in a meditative state when I'm working. For some people it's just moving points around, but for me it's just like, it feels like home. I don't know, just so relaxed, and the only time I ever stress out is when I'm on with it and I get pulled out and I can't focus, is when I have to do like a really stupid deadline or something, or some, and then I'm like, oh great, now I have to work.
No, that's always the way. If you do your best work when you're relaxed and at ease. That's why having support networks is so important. That's why having people around you that can help. I definitely feel like my work is a partnership, between myself and my wife, because much like Jack Kirby's wife, who kind of organized everything for him in the real world. She does a lot of that for me as well. So it makes a difference if you can free yourself up, you can free your mind up to focus on what you really want to do. Look at the lighting on the top of Dr. Manhattan on that left-hand panel, far left. The lighting across his shoulders and his chest.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. It's so simple as well. Just done with a few lines.
Yeah, it's caused by the explosion, isn't it?
Yeah, you can see the explosions below him causing the lighting going up his body. Brilliant.
Just before us, when you're talking about how your hips wouldn't go in that way to do that thrust or whatever it was you were doing. I remember reading or seeing something with George Harrison, and he played the sitar.
Yeah.
And it has like 68,000 chords and 12 million strings on it.
Some ridiculous thing on it, yeah.
And he was asked about if it was difficult to go from a guitar, obviously he plays the guitar really well, to that. What was the most difficult part? And he said, the way you have to sit.
That's weird.
To hold a sitar,
right?
You have to sit in a certain way. And he said his back ached for weeks.
Yeah.
And the most important part, and that guy, Ravi Shankar, was it, who taught him?
Yeah.
Told him it was about the posture.
Good Lord.
posture of the body to get the
Yeah.
sound on the machine that you were using.
Yeah. Well, the Indian culture, there's so much of that involved, sort of mind and body together.
Yeah.
It's deeply ingrained, right the way down to playing an instrument.
Yeah.
That page says it's May. I've been here 2 months. The Viet Cong are expected to surrender within the week. Many have given themselves up already. It says often they ask to surrender to me personally. Their terror of me balanced by an almost religious awe. I'm reminded of how the Japanese were reported to have viewed the atomic bomb after Hiroshima. Then in the middle panel, it says it's June, VNN night, and the comedian is sliding a gun from his holster, blood streaming from his lacerated face that we saw issue or so back. And then the bottom panel says it's October 1985, deciding to create something. I turn away from stars that may have burned out eons ago. I no longer wish to look at them. I no longer wish to look at dead things.
It's really well written.
Can I just point something out? See the gun he's pulling from the holster.
Mm.
You know, we were talking about sort of mistakes and impurity. Look at the lines on that. I don't know what you call it on the gun, but those lines, and they're not all the same, but on a gun they would be.
Oh yeah, they're not mechanical.
That's right.
No,
so
no,
it works.
right.
It works because it's moving. It's like the lettering.
Exactly, and that's such a big lesson to learn.
Yeah.
It's such an integral lesson to learn. It took me quite a while to learn that kind of stuff. I'm still fighting with it.
Yeah,
because you still look at a line and you go, "Oh, I want that to be like the perfect line." It's like, no, it doesn't have to be.
Oh, okay.
This is a page you could do a whole class on.
Yeah.
You know.
Again, the dialogue there, it's like it's almost word for word in the film.
Yeah.
And I mean that's quite a
that's because
quite
it's so
a
good.
harassing moment, that bit where he's walking through the fields as a giant and they're running in front of him and they're exploding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's because that's more graphic than the graphic novel. It's more graphic than these pages.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch the film again now.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that. I'm gonna dig that out tonight, I think.
Yeah, I've watched it up to about the third, where the third issue ends. Yeah.
I've been flicking backwards and forwards through the book because we've been doing this, and I'm gonna have to watch the film as well.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being a G string. There you go.
You just, in the last scene it wasn't. I think he just progressively wants to be more nude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you can mark
smaller,
his time as everything. Yeah. It becomes less and less necessary.
That's clever, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can see in the second page, bottom left panel there, right? That's definitely not a G-string.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's nude there. Yeah.
No, second page, the one your hands on.
Oh, I
now,
see. Right. Yeah.
Bottom left panel. There you go.
Yeah.
One to the left.
Yeah, to the left. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's not
thicker.
a G-string.
Yeah,
No.
you can't
It's
see his bum.
It's a little thicker than that.
Yeah. Whereas the next one over is a G.
And then it's just it's a Speedo.
Yeah.
It's your it's the
banana
uncle,
hammock.
uncle you didn't want to see.
Yep.
The pool.
This is great when he said, look at him there, and he says, he's hovering, and he says, "Pay attention, you will all return to your homes." And he says, "Oh yeah, and what if we don't, you big blue fruit?" And he says, "You misunderstand me. That was not a request."
And then just poof.
And then boom, they go.
Big blue fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you big blue fruit. What an insult!
Line.
Yeah, that's such a
You're down to a V.
that's such a thing that Ben Grimm would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, big blue fruit.
it's blubbering time.
It's blubbering time. Yeah.
And something you wouldn't see in modern comics today.
Yeah.
Well, no, because
No, because nobody can ever take art as art, and everything's got to be compared to what's going on in the real world, which is pretty crazy anyway.
It's almost like you're in a comic book sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Best thing to do is just ignore them all. That's the way.
Yeah.
That's the way. Ignore it all.
Well, Moore takes advantage of the 12 parts of the miniseries in order to get, especially on the even numbers, to get the perspective and the narration from the character, the individual character.
Yeah.
It's really, again, part of the genius and cleverness of the strip. Watch again the circle, the glow. It's just
On
phenomenal. We talked about that panel before. Just beautiful.
I was just going to say that absolutely gorgeous. We're just walking through the door, and the silhouette, the cloth, the everything about it is just fantastic.
Stepping out of the darkness, away from the blue man. And again in color. A lot of orange.
It's funny how he does sort of normal things, Dr. Manhattan. He goes to that place there and he takes the actual photograph with him to Mars. He doesn't sort of dissolve it with him, or he actually physically pulls it off the wall.
Well, I think it was a reminiscence and an absent-mindedness when he took it with him up to Mars to look at. It was like he's trying to hold on to the last strands of humanity.
Yeah.
That he has left, especially after he's been accused of killing people and radiating people and, becoming a monster. That's what this whole issue is about, him going through his past, grasping at his humanity.
That really is what a monster is the absence of humanity.
Yeah.
Look at that right hand. Sorry, look at that right hand page where he's looking, because he's looking at Rorschach, isn't he? Before we know who he is, type of thing. And the second page, middle top panel, other page. Yeah. There, that's Rorschach, isn't it? Walking away at the funeral, and he feels something about that person.
Oh, he knows who he is. Yeah. That panel says. Wednesday, the 16th, Lori is visiting her mother while I attend Blake's funeral. A thin man in a black coat leaves roses, then walks away. Do I know him? Saturday, the 19th now, the one with Lori with her hands. My hands encircle Laurie's face. In 1966, the costume people are arguing. In 1959, I am telling Janie I shall always want her.
Wonder how. I don't suppose anybody's really thought, to be honest. I was gonna ask, like with the new Watchmen in comic books and what have you. It's like how does this whole cosmic thing of Dr. Manhattan effectively being able to go wherever he wants. He sees the minutest quantum detail and the largest expanses of space. Mm-hmm. That doesn't really fit with, Swamp Thing going to hell in the same universe. Do you know what I mean? Just That doesn't work. And it just makes you wonder if anybody thought about that kind of stuff before they decided to put, the Watchmen in with Superman or whatever.
No, I think that's the problem. They don't think, do they? They just think, oh wow, let's make 15 films and make $1 billion.
I mean, I don't want to I haven't read the new Watchmen, so I don't want to.
No.
I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. There may be ways they've done that, but it just strikes me as a very as a very sort of uncomplimentary thing. Do you know what I mean? The two of them, I don't believe how the two of them can exist. I mean, this is very much considering Alan Moore's penchant for the black arts. This is almost a very atheistic book.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much, it doesn't deal with esoterics really, or theology anyway.
No.
Whereas something like Swamp Thing, which took you when he went from the green to the blue, and he went across the stars, and there was a way of there was kind of like this underlying natural world underneath everything that he could travel through, and it was the green on this planet. And there was all this backstory, but also he could travel down to the pits of hell via that channel to get his love back. It's like that just does not fit with this.
No,
I always thought that with New Gods, the way that Superman was in it,
right?
He shouldn't have been in it.
No.
And I've not read the book, and I don't know why they did it. But the Muhammad Ali one with Superman, what's all that about?
It's silly, isn't it?
It's just silly.
It's made to be silly, though.
But yeah, Muhammad Ali was the best fighter in the world, but Superman is
it's like having
buildings.
It's like having Thor in the Avengers. Thor's a god.
Yeah. I think there's because we all love a bit of canon, and we all love a bit of this universe where all the characters exist.
Mm-hmm.
But I think over the time, over like 50 years, it's taken over to a point where the comic companies feel like they have to stick everything in the same universe.
Yeah,
and then they fix things with multiverses.
I think not only that, but they've evolved these characters so much. They've literally took Superman from a man to a god.
And I think
and that's the fault of the company, just trying to be more outlandish and whimsical than the previous story.
And also, I think there can be ends. It's about being brave, and we all talk about Hollywood. All they do is reboots and remakes, and it's very much like that in the mainstream comic world as well. To be honest, there's a lot of stories that are just rehashing old stuff.
Yeah,
and it's because the large companies don't have the foresight, they don't have or the courage to create new things, because all this stuff at one point was new. All of it was new, and it was crazy, and nobody had done it before, and it was made, and then it got popular because people loved it. Okay, well, sometimes you got to stop stuff and make new things.
It reminds me of Back to the Future, right? Like you don't want to remake that movie at all.
Don't go near it. No.
If they did, it would just be a god awful travesty. And
there's a number of movies like that they should never touch or try to remake.
See, the thing is with Watchmen. The thing is with Watchmen is that anybody with half a brain who's read Watchmen and read Superman can clearly see it's a different world.
Yeah, it's a different.
You can't it's a different setting. The whole thing is different, and you can't have Superman suddenly and Batman suddenly appearing in Watchmen.
But it's this lack of courage to and it goes all the way through to when people talk about swapping races and sexes and stuff like that. It's a lack of courage to create new things.
Lack of imagination, I think.
Yeah, well, not just that, but it's that lack of courage. It's like, we must put it into a thing that everybody knows. No, just make something really good, and people will accept the new things.
That's part of what entertainment is all about.
Yeah, exactly.
I think people lost, and I think that's something that Moore does geniusly here. That I don't think anybody had bothered to do. At least not prominently up till this point, is to ask, do you really want to do this with this genre, with these characters? Do you really want to do this? Do you want to make gods? Do you want to have them walk into the real world and handle real situations and do real things? And it's so completely different, in my opinion, from Dark Knight, because Miller just takes it to a savage horrendous end where Moore is asking more questions about if that's real, then this happens. You know, do you really want to do this? Because if it's real, this happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think both are valid. I think the problem is that the people in charge, the execs, didn't get it.
No,
they just thought, it's another superhero story, and this sold a bundle. Let's make them all like that. And
they all
then
have
the people that followed on, the creatives that followed on, were channeled into that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and some of them obviously can't see outside of it as well. And you get to the point where everything's dark and gritty and everything's awful.
Yeah.
Okay. And everybody's a god, you know, and it's like, no, this is dull. This is dull as dishwater. Yeah. Like, make something new, make something bright, make something fun. The whole point is, you know, I know Moore can be less than complimentary about superheroes in general and considers most of them fascists, which I think he's an idiot for saying that. But there you go. It's my personal opinion. I think there's more fun and whimsy in it than he'd like to admit. But saying that, he still made perfectly valid questions, as you're saying in this piece, to say, look, what do you want from this? Where is this going? And at the same time created an absolutely genius story. It's the people outside of the creativity aspect that decided to ruin comics forever afterwards.
Absolutely.
You guys ever read Moore's Deadpool Dead Presidents?
No.
Marvel? I recommend it for like Moore being on the more whimsical side. It's actually a great book. It's got some, you know, some of Moore's political stuff in there, but it's very slight. Most of it's just about, you know, ridiculousness. And it's got obviously Deadpool in it, but they're bringing back the presidents of like old as zombies. And you know, they become this like big menace. So you got Washington fighting Deadpool, and it's just a ridiculous book. And like it's I think it's one of, because it's so whimsical, it's actually, I think it's one of Moore's better you know, pieces, where he's kind of forced to, you know, get out of the seriousness and more into make a more comical, whimsical kind of thing.
Marvit says, I never understood why Dr. Manhattan was showing his bell when he was around his mates and covering it up other times. He was, that's his clothing really shows a passage of time. The longer he's around, the less important he feels the clothes are.
It wasn't just around his mates. It was everywhere. And it is a very clever tool that is easily missed. It's a visual representation of the time passing and where his character is in the timeline, and bearing in mind that Moore is going backwards and forwards and switching scenes and times. It's important to know when these times work.
It's really a gauge for that, especially in this story, or I mean in this chapter. Marvy says again, for what I see, it was a very accurate movie adaptation. The end was different, but well written. It worked better than making it like in the comic. The decision Snyder did was like made. The Crow, a great adaptation too. Comics and movies are very different types of storytelling.
Yeah, they are. But I think the Watchmen is as close to purity as you can get. It's, you know, he didn't manage to do it with the other DC stuff, Snyder, but he absolutely nailed it with Watchmen, personally. And again, it's one of those situations where you can't expect to put everything in that's in a book as big as this into a single film.
And also, I think that Snyder was trying to stay away from the analogy of the ending of Watchmen compared to 9/11.
Yeah, a bit of that.
Trying to stay away from that a little bit too, which is why.
Although, you know, I think if he'd have put a big squid in, it probably would have made it a bit different. but yeah, I actually think it made almost more sense. In the film. The squid was a bit weird.
You're about
85 what was going to happen in 2001, you know.
You're about to see Dave Gibbons' genius here.
The great construction.
Because on the previous page, where he's pouring the sand into his hand, the left-hand page at the top.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you look at it, look at the big splodge of sand in his right hand. Look at the pile of sand next to his foot, and then turn the page, and that pile is bigger because the splodge has landed. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, he's
and
made
it's just
it bigger.
Genius.
Yeah.
And if you look, it's not touching his foot, and then it is, because it's all flowed down.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely amazing.
Real attention to detail there.
Yeah. The master.
Just the whole sequence here is phenomenal.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's great.
What's the color version?
Mostly
Very
pink.
Very pink and blue.
Very pink and blue.
Oh, what a lovely color.
Almost
The
like
red
champagne
Sands
glasses.
of Mars. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here you could have loaded this up with dialogue, but no, doesn't need it.
You really don't.
Yeah, Stanley would
Show.
have a few Who boys on there, wouldn't he?
Show don't tell. Yeah.
Stanley. And as the godlike figure floated above the surface of Mars.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we can see that, Stan. Honest, we can see it. It's drawn really well.
The dialogue for these pages are gone to Mars, gone to a place without clocks, without seasons, without hourglasses to tap the shifting pink sand. Below me in the sand, the secret shade of my creation is concealed, buried in the sand's future. I see into the thin air. Then you have that sequence in the next page. It says, a world grows up around me. Am I mapping it or do its predetermined contours guide my hand? In 1945, the bombs are falling on Japan. The cogs are falling in Brooklyn. Seeds of the future sown carelessly. Without me, things would have been different. If the fat man hadn't crushed the watch, if I hadn't left it in the test chamber, am I to blame then? Or the fat man? Or the father for choosing my career? It says, who makes the world? Very end. Who makes the world?
Well, maybe we do.
I think that's what he's saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that if you look at there's some insight here. There's also some. He's obviously been doing some research, which you'd expect from Moore.
Yeah.
And you just look at what's going on with the JWST at the moment, the Space Telescope.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're finding things that just don't make sense. And then on top of that, you've got, if anybody knows anything about anything small about quantum physics and the double slit experiment, and about the fact that light changes its nature on observation, and then apparently everything at the quantum level changes on observation, and the fact that they've seen things that effectively prove this, that the observation of something that happened 13.2 billion years ago is changing it.
Well,
and it's like, okay, so we're effectively creating our past and ergo creating the future at the same time. It's it's self-referential.
I can never get over the arrogance of man and in general and scientists in particular who say that what we've just seen today doesn't make sense. No, you don't understand.
You don't understand it yet.
That's makes sense. Because if you think about it, I'm not religious at all or anything like that. But you're arguing with God, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, you're arguing with creation.
And
that's
the natural order of things.
God,
the natural
universe,
order of things,
whatever you call it, you're arguing with that. And who the hell do you think you are to argue with God? You know,
I really enjoy watching the good science videos on YouTube, and there's a lot of great astronomy stuff and quantum physics stuff and what have you. And that feeds into what I do with my stories as well. But I really enjoy them. But they do kind of state this is what happened 13.8 billion years ago, and you're like, you don't know that. And then
Yeah.
you're watching these things, and because they're well researched and because it is as science understands it currently, you think, okay, right, I'll watch this. This is great. It's really interesting. And then you might come across it again. You think, but that's all wrong now, isn't it? Because you don't know now. You don't know for sure, because the JWST has just found galaxies in the dark ages that weren't even supposed to be there.
That's
And
right.
it's like, and stuff, all this stuff's happening. And it's like, you haven't got a clue, really.
Well,
So your video is now, it's now not worth looking at.
It's redundant, yeah.
Redundant,
It's like with Einstein. I mean, Einstein's theory was published, I think, in 1910. So it's just over 100 years ago. And in that, he says, don't stop with this.
No, yeah.
But that's taken as it.
Yeah.
You know? And the author of it, Einstein, said, listen, this is what I've worked out. Don't take this as gospel.
No, this is the stepping stone. Yeah.
And another underlying thing is that, don't forget, when did Ford have his Model T out? It was about 1890 or something. They used to run in front of them with a lamp, didn't they? Because, and they said if they went faster than 5 miles an hour, you'd suffocate.
Yes.
And then you realise that when you're in a spacecraft or an aircraft or a car, you take your own environment with you.
That's right. Yeah, because it's relative. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that only 100 years ago, with both Carr and Einstein, it was totally different.
And so yet physics,
why wouldn't it be now?
Physics in general has not moved on in 100 years. They're finding it difficult to get past. They're finding it difficult to get past the whole sort of observation aspect of, and the collapse of the wave function and what have you.
Yeah.
And it is difficult. It is difficult to get past if you look at the universe objectively. If you think it's not, if you think it's one big clock, then it don't work.
I think the newest thing in physics was superfluids, right? I think it was the last great, theory of our time.
Yeah, but the underpinning of quantum physics, of quantum mechanics, they haven't really moved forward from it. Since it was in 1919 or something, there was the one where Niels Bohr was at it, and Einstein and Heisenberg and all the greats, all the people that came up with it, all the people that turned around and basically said there's a subtle mind working beneath nature, something else is going on, and that's kind of been ignored, and it's kind of everybody's trying to explain this whole thing about why observation changes or in some way affects the world around us. And it's not easy to answer when you look at the world in an objective fashion. It doesn't mean that science doesn't work. It doesn't mean that quantum mechanics doesn't work, because every device we have, phones, everything, all works on quantum mechanics. A lot of it works on quantum tunneling. Now, they don't know how quantum tunneling works, but it does, so they use it. And that's the point. It's like when Einstein came up with his great theory, that didn't mean that the Newtonian physics didn't work anymore. It just means that you add to it.
Yep.
There's always somewhere further to go. There's always something.
The bottom line is that we don't know, do we?
We don't know. We haven't got a clue. And there's something, what's really important. Sometimes it's okay not to know. Sometimes it's okay to just relax and say, well, you're never going to know that.
The quote at the end of the story is from Albert Einstein.
There you go.
At the end of this chapter, it says the release of atom power has changed everything except our way of thinking.
There you go.
The solution to this problem lies in the heart of mankind. If only I had known, I should have become a watchmaker.
There you go. Exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah,
Albert
it's just
Einstein.
Brilliant, isn't it? And these quotes that he's using, it just
poignant.
It really is one of the finest pieces of comic book writing ever.
Yeah, I think it's one of the finest pieces of writing ever.
Yeah, writing ever. Yeah, it is fantastic, and it's just such a pity that it was used as some kind of template to make darker, grittier stories moving.
I think that was more Dark Knight than this.
Yeah. Either way, it is kind of held up as like this landmark of where comics changed, and it shouldn't be.
I
It was
think
just
they-
another comic. It was another fantastic, genius piece of literature that
again,
utilized
the two works were coming out at the same time. I think it was easily confused.
Yeah.
The last page reads, "Perhaps the world is not made. Perhaps nothing is made. Perhaps it simply is, has been, will always be there.
Yeah.
A clock without a craftsman.
Yep.
I'm standing on a balcony of pink sand, hardened to glass. It glitters in the 10-minute-old sunshine. The light of 2 hours past will be reaching Pluto. If they have strong telescopes there, they can see me, the photograph in my hand falling, lying in the sand at my feet. I'm standing on the fire escape in 1945, reaching out to stop my father, take the cogs and flywheels from him, piece them all together again, but it's too late. Always has been, always will be too late." This is above the
Notice
Gordy Mountains. Jewels in a maker-less mechanism. The first meteorites are starting to fall.
Yeah.
Do you know what this story also shows me? And I'm sure I'm not the only one here who sees this. Is that how well read Alan Moore is as well to get these quotes in?
Yeah.
You know, he brings up these.
He doesn't
little things.
he doesn't just write; he reads as well.
Yeah.
I think the difference between this and Dark Knight is Dark Knight was the what's the term for it where you break apart a superhero? It's
Deconstruction.
Deconstruction. That's it.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight was the deconstruction of a specific superhero, whereas this is simply questioning the construction of superheroes.
Yep.
It's questioning the genre. It's
questioning
questioning
of everything.
it's questioning us. It's questioning mankind. It's an extremely deep piece, and it gets a bad rap of like we were discussing earlier, of changing comics and people trying to follow on from it and taking the dark aspects of it, like the comedian and what Dr. Manhattan did in the war and Rorschach and making that the focus instead of the real meta questions that it's posing.
Yep.
And it's like we were saying before, like I mentioned before, like just because Einstein had a great theory doesn't mean you throw Isaac Newton's physical mechanics into the bin. And in the same way, just because this is a fantastic story that questions everything doesn't mean that you throw all the colorful, fun, whimsical stuff in the bin.
Exactly right.
You continue with it all. You build on it. You continue with it all.
Yep.
But that comes down to execs, doesn't it? And people in business rather than the creatives.
And this is 30 years after the Great Monster Society of Evil book, where the villain was a little tomato worm.
Worm.
They were talking tigers and talking alligators, just walking around.
Oh, Dave's turned up. Hey, Dave.
Genuine, Dave. Hello, everyone. Hello, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Hello, Dave. It's my wife now, Dave.
And those are the two remarks from RV from before. Here we are. Well, we are an hour and 35 in. We've hit the end of the fourth issue.
So that's done.
So that's done. Yep. Next week, folks, we'll get into issue 5.
Yep. It's getting good.
Oh, yeah.
Stick back.
We were saying before about how we call it the suits takeover and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great story of I don't know about chords and stuff. I still haven't learned to play the guitar. And there's a great story of the Beatles back in 1963, and they're in the studio with George Martin, and they're singing the recording working out "She Loves You," right? The song "She Loves You."
Yeah.
And George Martin is like a genius record producer, but he's very. I know he's very clever and he's a very creative man, but he's very tight, right? And the Beatles were loose, right?
Yeah.
And on that song, when John Lennon first sang, "She Loves You," yeah, at the end, George Martin apparently said to them, "You can't end it with a major fifth, seventh augmented John. It's not, you can't write music like that. And John Lennon apparently looked up and said to him, but it works. And the genius, I've said this before, the genius of George Martin in that situation was that he said, yeah, it does.
Yeah, right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So they kept it. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Oh, yeah.
So you've got this, George Martin, this sort of, I don't recall it, establishment type of figure, very stiff, that is the way it works. And some vagabond like Lennon comes in and says, well, why don't we do it that way? But as I said, the genius of George Martin is he said, yeah, you're right. Not? Yeah. Like, it sounds great. Let's keep it there.
Yep.
Whereas if somebody else would have been the producer, they would have said no.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the same thing with this work. You've got two. I don't like using the word genius; it's bandied around too much. But they got two fantastic creative people in Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons, and they produced this fantastic piece of work, which is outstanding. It's the best thing. It's just brilliant. And then you get people getting hold of it and wanting to add Superman and change it and let's make this person a woman and let's do this, and because they've got no imagination, they've got no idea.
So true.
And they just bastardize it and change it, and you can't do that because I don't want it to happen like that.
Counters and lizard people.
Yeah. Those lizard people keep coming back to me.
Lizard people.
And when they do change it, I'm just waiting for the corporate speak nonsense they're going to throw on top of it to be like, oh, this is so amazing. And you're just like, this is a murder scene.
Yeah. But then again, like we said, they get it. Somebody comes up with a good idea like these guys do, and then they make a million like it because it makes money. And I know you've got to make money, and I know all that kind of thing, but sometimes you should just leave things alone. Like I was dreading a few years ago when I heard that they were going to remake 2001. What is the point? What is the point?
Don't.
What's the point? Like when they made The Day the Earth Stood Still, which is one of the greatest films ever made, the Michael Rennie one from 1951, but the new one with Keanu in. I know Keanu's great and all that, but
Yeah. Yep. It as a film, it wasn't too bad, but it wasn't the original.
Yeah, but it's like when they made iRobot, and when they made the other one, they based it on the Omega Man, but they put zombies in it because the zombies are flavor of the month, aren't they?
Yeah.
They weren't zombies in the Omega Man with Charlton Heston. It's just fantastic science fiction film, but they have to change it. I don't get it. Yeah. I don't get it.
Right.
I'm just a grumpy old man, but don't mean I'm wrong, does it?
Yeah, that's all of us.
Too true.
Grumpy old man. That's how you go.
Whiskey, tell folks how they can find you.
You can find me over on Twitter under Bayonet Ricochet. We make figures, miniatures, action figures, 3D stuff. If you're looking for a figure for your your comics of any kind, just send me a message there, a DM, follow so on, and we'll get you hooked up. And later on, at some point in the future, we're going to be currently developing a tabletop war game called Banner, Steed, and Lance. It's a love letter to the medieval world with a dash of fantasy and very historical accurate miniatures. So you can check that out when it launches.
Sweet.
That's it.
Yep. Genuine Comics. He always, as always and everywhere, idiots ruin everything for everybody.
Yeah.
Marv says, have a great weekend, everyone. And remember, comics is a wonderful drug. Take care. It's a hell of a drug. Russ, tell folks where they can find you.
When I'm not wandering around on eBay looking for fantastic old comics.
Wandering around.
You're shouting at parked cars.
It's like shouting at parked cars and saying, where's my Captain Britain comic? You can find me in the pages of Batman. Currently, Hero Time presents Batman UK and Europe. My own books, Only Death Can Save Us. You can pick up an original copy at my website, or you can go and get the New Haven re-edited version of Book 1, Volume 1, over on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, all those kind of places. I'm also in Doctor Who magazine next month, I think, so you can find me there as well. So go check out my Instagram, put a piece of art up there every day, whether it's archived or brand new. Also my email list, so you can keep abreast of the current projects that are coming. And there are some very exciting ones coming very soon. Sword and Sorcery is on its way. You can find out about all those things, all my social medias, over at russleach.com.
More lizard people. Lizard people.
There will be lizard people.
There will be lizard people. Yes.
There will be lizard people. That is a promise.
Glenn, tell folks how they can find you.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram and all those things, the usual things. And you can find this magazine I produce on Amazon, which is a 100-page magazine, comes out every couple of months about comics and articles and interviews. New Haven Publishing, and you can get this through Barnes and Nobles and Waterstones. This is my book about my trip to see Jack Kirby. You can get that there. You get it on from me as well, actually. And coming soon, you'll be able to get this, my character Hatch. This is coming through New Haven as well, so that will be in Barnes and Noble and all good stores worldwide, so I'm told. And yeah, just go to Amazon, just put my name in, you'll find all my books there, science fiction books, children's books, and all kinds of good stuff.
Great stuff.
Yeah, lots of stuff.
Folks, I've been your host, Randy Zimmerman. I hope that you've been enjoying what we've been doing here as much as we've been enjoying doing it. So Comics by Night, folks, we are archived over at the Indie Comics Network. This is part 4, and what's probably going to end up as a 12-part series as we look at Watchmen. So we hope that you stick around with us and hang around for the ride and learn stuff and join in on the conversation. You can join us.
Netflix.
Better than Netflix. Especially lately. Holy crap. Anyway, you can always find us over at the Indie Comics Network. We're here at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Friday as we talk about the comics that we love. And Sunday morning at 9 a.m., we also do Sunday Funnies, where we talk about the stuff that inspires us and that keeps us in this fantastic business known as comics. And we hope that you'll join us there as well. We appreciate everybody listening in. Hit that like and love button. Make sure if you have something that you want to see us work on or comment about, make sure you leave that in the comments there on the YouTube channel. We'd love hearing from you. You don't have to always talk to us during this chat. I know that our numbers are really good after we get posted and end up going up on YouTube. And I forgot to change my Facebook this morning, which is probably why most of the comments haven't been there. Dang it. I hate that if they would only switch it around. There we are. I always keep forgetting I'm going to have to put a Post-it note up in the corner of my drawing board. Remind me to switch that over every episode. So we just went. I was wondering why we weren't getting a lot of chat. A lot of folks talking at us today. And a lot of that comes out of the Facebook page. Are we also mirrored over on your channel, Mr. Russ?
Yes. Yeah. I mirror it on my channel as well. So you're welcome to come see it there. There's plenty of stuff I did. I've got some how-tos, some bits and pieces, stuff that I've done in the past, analysis of artwork, draw the Marvel way, all that kind of stuff. I'm hoping to get back to doing some live streams with inking soon. So there you go.
When you've mastered those pens.
When I've mastered those, but I'll never master them.
Next week. No, you will. You will. It'll be great. Next week, you'll think, right, I'm going to do it now.
Oh, there you go.
This is the way that...
Speaking about streaming, I guess I'm going to be announced that I'm going to be doing my own live stream of some kind in the future very soon. Okay. Just planning out the finer details for it. I have no specific date yet, but hopefully we'll get some of you folks on there and some other people will check it out in the future. So check Twitter out and keep up to date.
You're probably going to need a camera.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe it'll be radio.
Folks, you can find my work over at aerocomics.store. There's been a lot of news about Aero Comics this last week as our latest book, The Little Mermaid, is making ground over on fundmycomics.com, done by Pixel Trader and the great Eric Hodson. So go over there and check that out. You can find, I am in my last week of the Fool campaign. If you want to get in on the Fool on the ground floor, please go over there, fund my comic, and add to that campaign. I am $50 shy of my intended goal. The book's going to come out anyway, and it's part of the second tier of Arrow Comics that we offer on all of the Arrow Comics campaigns, like Soul Tack and Chrome Dog are still actively working. Soul Tack is currently shipping, as I think Rift Riders has already shipped out to everyone. And the Fool and the second tier will probably be available in June, July, somewhere in there, and will be available for shipping. So Marv says, congratulations, thanks.
Do you have a low tier, like other than $50? Do you have like a single?
Well, the first tier is $50 for 8 books. Second tier is $40 for 6 books. But from now on, we're going to be starting, I believe, a campaign over on fundmycomic.com where you'll be able to pick and choose what you want. And the more that you buy, we'll have coupon codes for different levels for additional discounts.
Because I do want to pick a book. I just don't have the 50.
I hear you. Yep. I know how that goes. Over at the aerocomics.store, though, you can buy the individual books that are already in hand and warehoused. Luke says he's shipping out a lot of this stuff. HeroBot Zero #1, which is a book I mostly did about a 3-foot tall giant robot defending his city from large monsters. Also HeroBot 02, which I wrote all of, that has artwork from other artists, like this great cover here by somebody named Scott Rosemo, who keeps, eventually maybe he'll be back here again. You'll find a book like Calico, which is a fantasy, high fantasy title that I'm enjoying creating and writing about a talking cat, a elf who likes to collect things, a female centaur warrior, a barbarian fairy, and a old wizened wizard as they try to put their world back together again. And Paragon, which is a superhero story that's kind of my version of how Superman should go, I would say, if we were to do it in modern times. But that's just me, and I hope you enjoy it. It's got a great twist at the end. We also have an anthology book over there called Revolt that Glenn is in, that Russ is at, that Russ will have a cover in the second issue of, that's part of the second Arrow tier. And you can pick and choose over aerocomics.store if you don't want to buy the tiers from the campaigns, or buy into the campaigns, please, and help us out, help Arrow out. And there's a lot more on the way. I currently have the Fool campaign, like I said, and here's a quick picture from that, I think. Let me see. Where was that? That was there's the cover for it right there. There's the inside front cover in the first page right there. The adventures of a guy who dresses up in a weird outfit and fights street crime. And anybody he ties up for the cops, he takes a section of their clothing and incorporates it into his action duds. And he uses practical joke weapons in order to fight crime. We're also working on this book here, which is a great bit of fun. And it's currently being colored by Patrick Gamma, the same person who colored The Fool. Currently having a blast with that. That's the cover of it. That should be out and available as soon as it's done coloring. We'll have a campaign for that as well. So appreciate you all. Let's see, is there anything else that we need to mention?
No.
Make sure you go over to the Indie Comics Network and check them out. Go and visit your local retailer and check them out.
There's that cover for Revolt 2, if you want to show it.
There's the cover for Revolt 2 right there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey.
So physical artwork is available if anybody wants to buy it. So there you go.
Oh, okay. Great. All right, folks, next Friday. We'll see you next Friday, 5 a.m. Watchmen Part 5. Go through that. We'll see you on Sunday. Right now, I'm thinking Old Farts Talking Comics, probably.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll see. I've got invitations out to a few extra people just to see if they'll pop in. I can't think of anything else. We went through comic strips last week, and if anybody has any topics they want to see us discuss, we'll happily entertain those suggestions.
Yeah, we could just do a general talk.
Yeah.
Just sit around and, like we did now. Just sit around and talk about stuff. Yeah.
Talk shit about comics. It's
find
great.
something to look at.
Yeah.
Get some cake, maybe.
I want a piece of cake.
Yeah, it's from last Sunday. Had a good time.
You should cut the lizard people. Just get the hecklefish.
I don't know how much trouble I'd get in for hecklefish.
Just hecklefish saying lizard people. That's it. That's all you want. just text him and just say like hecklefish makes an appearance. Okay, he'll love it. I'm sure he'd be happy with that.
I don't know. We might get copyright struck for that. I don't want to get in trouble with that guy. I love his channel.
It's really nice. It's really cool. It's good advertising. What's he all about?
They're probably too small for him to even notice at this point.
Well, there you go. It doesn't matter. Sorry.
In the end, here it is. What is it? It's all
a bullshit. A bullshit. A bullshit. A bullshit.
There we are.
So young and so informed.
Yeah.
So informed.
Like those guys on that Fokker thing. Ass.
Yeah. Take care, everybody. See you next week. Have a great weekend. See you Sunday.
Yeah, that's for Daniel.
We'll see you soon. We're going out with a couple of bumps and our usual end cap. So take care, everyone.
The views and opinions expressed within the video content found on the Indie Comics Network are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Indie Comics Network or its sponsors.
Arrow Comics is proud to present to you the fast-paced vigilante justice as only... what is this guy dressed as? This is the Fool. This is The Fool from Arrow Comics, with great artwork by Chris Tyson, colors by Patrick Gamma, written and created by Randy Zimmerman. This guy runs around the city using practical joke weapons to fight crime, and the cops just want to get him off the street before he hurts somebody. You need to read this book. Available in its own individual campaign or part of Arrow Bundle Number 2. Arrow Bundle Number 1 is also available with the Fool campaign over at fundmycomic.com. Check it out.
Why? Because fuck them, that's why.
Have a question or comment for us to address on the show? Have a topic you want us to talk about? Email us at indiecomicsnetwork@gmail.com. Want your comics to arrive in pristine condition? Head over to GeminiComicSupply.com and save 10% on your next Gemini mailer order or anything in the Gemini Comics Supply store. Use coupon code RAGIN10. That's RAGIN 10.
Now on Sunday mornings, longtime independent comics creator Randy Zimmerman brings to you a podcast that talks about the lighter and more whimsical side of comics, the fun side of comics. That's right. Sunday Funnies is back Sunday morning, 9 a.m. on the Indie Comics Network on YouTube. Check it out. Special guests, great comic talk, good times. See you there. You know, I need to find a couple copies of Jerry Lewis comics and just go through it. Some of that Jerry Lewis and Bob Hope stuff was done by Mort Drucker.
Wow, was it? I didn't know that. Yeah. Oh,
I need to dig some of that stuff up. Just beautiful, yeah, gorgeous stuff. I think he did a bunch of war comics for DC back during that period as well.
He did do. He did. I saw some of his work in a Western as well. From the late 50s.
Should try to find some of that comic work and take a look at it as soon as we're done with Watchmen. That would be a great thing.
I was really surprised to see his work.
What was that? This is not a charade. We need total concentration. Now, once again, this time, with theory.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Can't nobody tell me nothing.
How dare you?
Get off my lawn.
A bullshit. A bullshit. A bullshit. A bullshit.
Thank you notes. And I was just running a bit.